Hey, what's going on, everyone? Sorry for the wait. My coffee did not brew. I thought it brewed, and then I got pissed off, and then I had to re-brew it because it didn't brew the way I needed it to brew. So I was not happy. But I'm happy now because we are here. We are together. I want to thank everyone for waiting. And how about this? 76ers fall. Whoa. Whoa. 76ers fall in game one to the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah, I'm not as freaking out as everybody else. This is a 7-game series for a reason. It's not great. Nobody's saying that it's great. Nobody's saying that, this is the best situation in the world. But I also don't think that the Sixers are as doomed as everybody else seems to think. There is an overreaction from game to game in the NBA playoffs. There really is. It's like, oh, well, because this happened, the team is screwed forever. It's like, no, 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 no. It's not necessarily how this works. You're not screwed forever because of one game. It's not ideal. You're not screwed forever because of one game. It's just not how it works. So I'm excited to see how they respond in game two, and I will be in the building. I'll be honest. When I saw Triple H, I should say, because it wasn't as if Shawn Michaels was there. But when I saw him in the building and I saw that atmosphere and I saw the crowd erupt, I went right on. I gotta get some tickets. So I'm taking the fiance to tomorrow's game. So I'm super pumped up about it. It's been a long time since I've been down at the Wells Fargo Center. So I'm really excited to be in that atmosphere for sure. So before we hop into it all, of course, as always, cheers. Cheers. Let's have some coffee together. Let's enjoy this coffee together. I went with a little McDonald's today, a little McDonald's regular. If you're reading this, I need more Joe for all you Drake fans out there. I made this myself. I've told you this before, I believe, but I did make this myself, a little ceramics. Nothing like that first sip on a Monday morning. All right, let's get into the comment section and let's start this bad boy off. We have Philly Jackson saying Sixers in 5 or 6. Rest of the series should be different. Yeah, I agree. The rest of the series should be played out differently. My thing is, and I've been saying this about Doc for a while, but nobody wanted to hear it. Doc Rivers is known to be a failure just as much as he's known to be a winner. Now, with that being said, the answer to this Hawks team is on the Sixers roster. The Sixers do have the adjustment that needs to be made. What is that adjustment? Well, that's for Doc Rivers to figure out and play around with the puzzle pieces. But there are answers on the Sixers roster. It's about figuring out what is the perfect match against Trae Young, against Bogdanovich, against Clint Capella, and the lob game. So it's there. It's just about finding it. I thought without Joel, this would be closer to 6 or 7. With Joel, closer to 5. And maybe even 6, but 6 where it was a battle, but it wasn't anything overwhelming. Maybe I even underestimated the Hawks a little bit because I thought it could go 7 without Joel. Is it possible it goes 6, 7 with Joel? It is possible. The Atlanta Hawks are a good team. They're a good team. They're not elite. They're a good team, though. Furcon says, no way the Hawks shoot that good again. I'll be honest with you. They're a good shooting team. That's what they do. You talk about a team having an identity. What they did last game is their identity. Now, to that level, yeah, it was aggressive. There's no denying that it was aggressive, all those threes. And you're right. See, you can go with the mentality of the Sixers won't be as sloppy with the turnovers. They will be better defensively. There's no way they're going to allow that many wide open looks for corner threes and things of that nature. So they will be better defensively, especially with their matchup on Trae Young. The Atlanta Hawks won't shoot the lights out, but every game had its own personality. This game won't play out the same way tomorrow, which won't play out the same way on Friday, which won't play out the same game after that. There's so much that goes on that changes the personality and identity of each game, where it doesn't matter how it happened in game 1 or how it happened in game 2. The only thing that mattered is it did happen in game 1, and, that's 1-0 Atlanta Hawks. So I understand what you're saying. They probably won't shoot that same way. But maybe they don't need to shoot that same way in game 2 because something else is sort of creating the personality of that game, or they might not need that. There's other ways for them to counter the counter of Doc Rivers. Whenever the game's close, they can just foul Ben. I think that's something you saw Scott Brooks do. I don't think that's something you're going to see every coach do. I really don't. I don't think that that's a method that you're going to consistently see over and over and over again. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. It's more of a desperate move. Scott Brooks has utilized that in the past. Not every coach has, but your point is very valid. Ben Simmons has a problem. Ben Simmons is an absolute issue. And I thought Ben had a good game. I thought Ben had a good game. He was aggressive, especially early. And it upsets me that you see him explode that way and then decides to stop exploding that way. It worked, and it worked for a reason, because you are a very special talent with a special body frame, with special acceleration and speed. And then he just stops doing it, and probably because of the free throw shooting. But when you look at the free throws afterwards, dude, come on, man. It's starting to get absolutely ridiculous. $5 coming in from the Silent King. Good morning, Brodes. Tell me how intense the last 2 minutes were for you, especially when you were within 2 with possession. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I thought they were going to win the basketball game. I really did. I thought the Hawks would choke. The inexperience of the Hawks. It's a different amount of pressure when you're talking about on the road in the playoffs, and not just on the road anywhere. You're not just on the road. You're on the road in Philadelphia, and things get crazy. Things get hectic. Things get wild. Things get bonkers. You're in a really tough spot. So I thought they were going to crack, and unfortunately they weren't. It was definitely rough, no doubt. I was actually at that point, I was at the Fanatic watching at the studio at that point. So, yeah, it was something that my gut feeling thought they were going to pull it through. They were going to do it. They were going to do it. Although it wasn't to the point where I was heartbroken when they didn't, because it was sort of, a tall task and a tall order, a tall thing to ask for. I agree with you. Here we go. We should have 8 or 9 man rotation. I don't understand the fascination with the bench. There is this aggressiveness with the bench. He wants to run 11 man deep. He wants to utilize everybody. Doc, it's the playoffs, bro. It's the playoffs. We've only been screaming about it for 72 games. You're going to have to shorten the bench. You don't have to worry about someone's family member being upset that Furkan and Shake Milton are not playing. The use of Shake Milton yesterday was absolutely ridiculous. It was seriously asinine for him to play 1 minute late in the fourth quarter with 6 or 7 minutes to go. What? Hey, you don't play all game. All game. Here's 1 minute for you to turn the ball over. What? That was such an egregious time to utilize Shake Milton. Why? What does that do? What gets accomplished with that Shake Milton 1 minute? I thought Doc was really bad. And I never lean head coach over anybody else when it comes to a loss in a sport other than football. Football, different conversation. I never truly look at the coach as the reason, because the players are out there and they suck. Just like Danny Green. Danny Green sucked. And even though that's a bad matchup, Danny Green could be significantly better in that same matchup than he provided for you yesterday. I thought he just sucked. But when you analyze this and you look at the pie chart of why things went wrong and how things went wrong, for the first time in my life in a really long time, it's hard not to look at Doc Rivers as the biggest reason. And I don't do that. I really do not do that. But it was lost for sure with the coaching and the game plan, and then the players as well. And, the poor defense, man, what was going on? The help defense and the overcommitting, it was brutal, which allowed wide open looks, wide open threes, and they cashed in. Nate McMillan, I think, is going to have the answers to Doc Rivers' answers. They're already anticipating Ben Simmons and the switch that they're going to do on Trae Young and the trap that's going to be ran. And they're going to, game plan ideas. TN says Atlanta is young and hungry. They are. They are. And that's why I said they're a good team. People were overlooking them. They're not the Wizards. And everyone knew they were an upgrade from the Wizards, but they can play. If you look at their record since that change and whatnot with the coach and this backstretch, they've been putting together one of the best records in the NBA along with the top teams like the 76ers and other squads. I would honestly I'm reading a comment here. I would honestly keep Simmons at center while Embiid is resting and play some minutes without Simmons for him to rest. And during that time, have Maxey, Tease, and Embiid. So basically what you're saying is you want Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid on the floor at the same time, or excuse me, at least one of those two on the floor at all times. And yeah, I mean, I'm not against staggering the minutes. I don't mind because you need to go to your bench. To act as if you never go to your bench is just unfair. But I think you got to be a little bit more creative with it. I don't mind Tobias and some bench guys. I don't mind Tobias and Seth Curry with 3 bench guys. So for me, it doesn't necessarily have to be Ben Simmons or Joel on the floor at all times. It could be, and maybe it should be. But if it's Tobias and Seth and then 3 bench players, I can get behind that. And that's probably more realistic. I'm just judging this off of what I've seen out of Doc Rivers. So if we're just talking strictly what Doc Rivers has done and my feel off of what I've seen him do with rotations, I think you have a better chance of Tobias plus bench, Tobias Seth plus bench than you do always having Joel and always having Ben, one of the two on the floor at all time. Sean says, better odds, Brodes hitting the lottery or Ben Simmons hitting back-to-back free throws. Yeah, what I can't stand is I keep getting the message of just accept it. This is who he is. Well, if this is who he is, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. How can we accept this? One of the best things that he does is he explodes to the basket and he puts the defenders on their heels and they force you to get into some foul problems. And if he can't hit those free throws, it's significantly less of an impact. It's not as valuable. What's valuable is getting the other team in foul trouble, making the other coach have to make decisions and maybe go to the bench when they don't want to, or go smaller or go bigger when they don't want to. That's definitely very important and valued here. The other side of it, which I can make the argument is the most important part, you got to pay. Make them pay. Put the ball in the damn hoop. It's crazy. Ben Simmons, 3 of 10, dude, in a 4-point game. Now, it's not that simple. He's not going to go 10 for 10. And I don't even know if 6 for 10 would satisfy me. But think about the difference between 3 and 10 and 6 and 10. Now it's only a 1-point game. I can't do this today, Furcon. I can't. This has been a big topic. And I'm going to talk about this game again in a podcast, probably later on tonight. And I'm actually disgusted. And I'll somewhat leave this as a tease. But I'm disgusted with what Doc Rivers and Ben Simmons had to say about the referees afterwards. What? You guys sucked for a long time in this game. You sucked. How dare you say that the refs were I got to check with the league. I have to check with the refs on how they called that and this. What? You sucked for majority of the game. No. I'm not having it. I'm not having the referees was why you lost. Ben, you don't have to pick up Trae Young when you picked up Trae Young, and he does that all the time. He bitched and complained about it with the Wizards series too, where he'd pick up Bradley Beal at a certain point, and I get it. They have range. You got to find the line. You got to toy with that line. It's a joke. Well, Sticky, Ben Simmons says, Ben Simmons can argue with the refs when he shoots at least 50% from the line. I mean, it is 2 different conversations, right? He's bitching about him defensively and him picking up those fouls, but he's putting himself in the position for the refs to make the bad call. So don't even put yourself in the position. That's what I'm at. It really is. It's an excuse. And Andrew says the same thing. It's an excuse. It is. There's no way I look at yesterday and I say, you know what the problem was yesterday? The refs. Now, we're talking about that pie chart, right? Doc Rivers, Danny Green. I thought Seth Curry struggled. Tyrese Maxey. You can split up the pie chart however you want. The refs are in the pie chart. But if you're going to compare that to turnovers, to poor defense, to Doc Rivers, that falls 9th, 8th, 7th on the list. Let's bitch, Doc. Let's bitch about the other things not working out with your team, and then let's get to the refs, all right? Then we'll get to the refs. Why should it be illegal? I mean, that's been a part of basketball forever. That's not just a Trae Young thing. That's part of basketball. I mean, everyone utilizes that. You know what that is, though? See, you don't like that because it doesn't help your team. You know what Joel Embiid does? Joel Embiid flies and flings his arms around. Oh, someone's reaching in. Oh, flies and, oh, let me go to the line. Oh, let me go to the line. But nobody has a problem with that, right? Why? Because it benefits the Sixers. It's basketball. Some things are cheap. Some things are a little bit flexible, I guess you'd say, with the rules. James Harden pops his head back, flies his arms, goes to the line. Joel Embiid goes to the line nonstop. Just a part. It's just a part of the game. Just a part of the game. Motrick. I apologize if I am not pronouncing your name correctly. I'm trying my best. I don't get why Doc worries about Simmons picking up stupid fouls early. He can just start on Trae a bit less aggressive and just double him off the screen because of the size. It's hard to pass. There is something about trapping him. You need to trap Trae Young. It's no doubt about it. I agree, though. There is this obsession with I don't want to get him in foul trouble. Well, we talk about him being the defender of the year, right? He's the best defensive player in the entire NBA. He should know. He should know. He should know how to not foul early. He should know how to not put himself in a position to have the refs call a bad foul. That should all be registered in his brain if he's the defensive player of the year type of player. And he is. And he is. He really, really is. Stop it, Andrew. This is nonsense. Andrew hates how soft the league is. Luka, LeBron, they complain every play. Go watch Michael Jordan play and tell me he never complained. I love this. I really do. It's like people forget what the older generations were like. Do you know how many people bitched and complained in the 90s? Every single one of them. Do you know how many people bitched and complained in the 80s? Every single one of them. Do you know how many people bitched and complained in the 70s? Every single one of them. The bitching and complaining to the refs has been an issue in every single era of basketball ever. The only difference is it was on a black and white television screen with a 6-inch screen with a bubble TV where you had to squint to see. And there was no social media where you can replay it within 3 seconds and rewatch the replay of LeBron or Luka on loop for 10 minutes straight. You didn't have the ability to bitch and complain about them on social media. You had to listen on the radio. Michael Jordan would absolutely roast these referees after a non-call. It would happen every single game, every single moment, every single team, every single star. Joel does the same thing too. All these guys do. I mean, it's been a nature of basketball forever. Just glad, this is from Bobby, just glad Joel Embiid played from a Hawks fan. Hate to see great players out. We had loads of injuries all year. Hate Dwight Howard as a Hawk and as a Sixer. So Bobby pretty much wants to say, if we want to take down the best, I want to see the best, and I want to see them healthy. I don't know how the knee is going to react. He did say afterwards that it's hard to play on a torn meniscus. Not that that's shocking news. Not that that's breaking news. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm curious to see how he can go. 39 points is ridiculous. You know, he scored his points. It's crazy because I didn't think, I don't know, I don't want this to come off the wrong way. He had 39 points and he did everything he possibly could in this situation. But I don't know. It was like a weird, quiet 39, I guess. Does that make sense? Am I the only one that feels that way? That's not to take away from what he did. That's not to say it wasn't good enough, but it did seem to a degree, it was sort of like a quiet 39. It wasn't a screaming 39. It wasn't an in-your-face 39. And maybe it's as simple as this. You were down 20-something points. So normally and naturally, when you're down 20-something points and it's such a big blowout, while you're cracking the lead here and there, you're making buckets, but it doesn't scream in your face as much as it would when you're going back and forth on the seesaw, as Mark Zumoff would say, and it's 91-89, 91-91, 93-91, 93-93, 95-93. Those buckets scream in your face a little bit more, you know? Maybe it's there. Yes, they did not have DeAndre Hunter, Jude. That's another part to the equation. I don't really know what his status is, though. I don't know how severe. I don't know long term. I don't know exactly where the DeAndre Hunter situation is for them. I'm going to try and find that out right now and search it. I mean, just to kind of see what some of the reporters were saying from a Hawks perspective, but he had a knee injury, right? Oh, no. That was a couple of days ago. I don't know. I'm sure we'll figure something out, though. I'm sure we'll find out some more information. Jim, with all due respect, I really don't think talking about Aaron Rodgers is where my brain is at today. Anything related to the Eagles trading for Aaron Rodgers, which would just not happen. I just can't go there today after a Sixers loss. And yeah, even the Phillies thing. I know that's in the title. I'll be honest with you. I did not get a chance to watch 1 second of the Phillies yesterday. And maybe it was for the best because they exploded. They got their victory. And I did not get an opportunity to watch the game. So good for them. They got the win. They got the series win, and that's big for confidence, maybe. They won games with Spencer Howard and Vince Velasquez on the mound, and both of them did not have strong performances. I watched the extended highlights, and I read up on some articles on how they played. So I did some research, and I did kind of look at it, but I did not sit through it all. I did not. There's something going on with this coffee right now where I don't know what happened, and maybe that's a reason why it did not brew the first time, but I'm actually tasting coffee grounds in my coffee, which is strange as hell, and I've never had it happen before. So I'm a little disappointed, but I'm not even going to be able to drink that coffee right now, and I still got a half hour left in the show. Should I text my fiance and say, hey, babe, I think I need a cup of coffee. Can you run me down one? Should I do that? She's in the middle of work. I think she might be on a Zoom meeting. Do I test it? Do I see how much she loves me? Should I see if she loves me or not? Little Ben Simmons, she loves me not. Little Ben Simmons action. Philly for Life says, bro, some of Ben Simmons' missed free throws was on purpose so they can get a rebound for 2. Not all. Stop it. Stop it. There's no way that you come in here today and this is what you want to say. There's no way that you can defend Ben Simmons in any way today when it comes to free throws. There's literally, I'm almost in awe. I'm almost in shock mode that someone has the audacity to come into the chat today and say that Ben Simmons isn't really that bad at free throws because what happened was he tried missing them on purpose. Ben Simmons is a horrendous free throw shooter. He has a serious issue with free throw shooting. And you think that this is because he tried doing this on purpose? Come on now. Come on. I think we all know when late games people do that, and we know when someone's just flat out bad. Ben Simmons is flat out bad when it comes to shooting free throws. Come on. Let's not have a carryover effect from what happened last Thursday and last Friday, because if you remember, that was a disaster. We had some really bad comments yesterday at the end of last week. And I didn't know how to operate. I was just stuck in shock mode. You hit me with it. Yeah, I don't know if you're going to see Hack-a-Ben as much, though. I think that was more of a Wizards thing than it was. You're going to see that every round. Although, when it does get this ugly and when it is this noticeable, I'm sure McMillan has it somewhat on the game plan, whether it's number 7, 8, 9, 10. I bet you there is a game plan at some point that says, whether they get to it or not, hack Ben Simmons, because it's so extreme. It's so noticeable. He's clearly in his own head. He's clearly physically not even capable of making the free throws either, just with the way that he shoots a basketball. So there's so much involved. I mean, everyone sees it. Everyone sees how pathetic it really is when he's standing at the charity stripe. That McMillan is a smart coach and clearly recognizes it. I'm sure it's on his list of possibilities. I just don't think it's extremely, extremely high. Now, Nix says, Brodes, chill, man. Ben Simmons just misses free throws on purpose to make the series more exciting. Right. And I do sense the sarcasm. Andre says, hey, Brodes, what did you think of Tobias's play yesterday? I know the box score will tell you one thing. I don't think the box score truly tells the full story with Tobias Harris. So the box score says for Toby, in terms of efficiency, if the World Wide Web would actually load, go to the box score. 8 of 13 for 20 points, 10 rebounds, 3 steals, did have 3 turnovers as well. I don't know if the box score screams as strong as Tobias Harris played. I thought he had some sloppy moments. I thought he had some okay moments. There was that 17-0 run that Tobias stopped the bleeding with a nice bucket, and then he did score a couple buckets there. But I don't know. I don't think it popped. I don't think he had a good game. I don't think he had the worst game ever. I don't think it was a good or great game, though, at the same time. Let's keep it this way. Let's put it this way. He needs to be better. He needs to give you more than what he gave you. Even though the box score reads what it reads, I don't think the box score tells you the story of how he played. Tatal. Is that Talal? I apologize. I'm bad with names. I am bad with names. I feel like the Hawks got lucky, and they're not going to shoot that well all series long. Here's the thing with that narrative. They did not get lucky. This is what they do. And this is why I tried stressing to everybody that this is not going to be a walk in the park. This is not going to be a cakewalk. This is not going to be so simple and so easy. The Hawks frustrate you. The Hawks have a skill set. The Hawks have an identity offensively. The Hawks know what they're doing, and they know how to run their offense. This is not luck. The Hawks did not luck into this. They are a strong, structured, smart basketball team. Now, what I think the difference is what you saw late, which is inexperience. No team should crack that way. Now, they held on, and Bogdanovich did make a big shot, and they did do some little things that eventually, ended up being the difference, like making that pass to John Collins when they got trapped deep in their own territory there underneath. Well, I guess it wasn't technically underneath the basket, but it was more in the corner, but on their basket baseline side. They did make those little plays, but they also cracked pretty heavily, and I think that is going to be the difference in the pressure that in game one, which is a small sample size, they finished the job. If you constantly get those spots, you see basically is this. That second half outburst that you saw from the Sixers, you could see how overwhelmed the Hawks were when the Sixers put on that type of pressure. So if they put on that pressure for not just the second half, but the entire first half too, which they do. I've seen it a billion times. It's not asking for too much. That's who the Sixers have been majority of the season. Well, then that's where I feel confident about the Sixers. But this isn't luck. Oh, come on, Philly for Life. Seriously? Philly for Life says, Brodes, Ben had 17 and 10. Let the man live and just chill. Stop it. He was 3 of 10 from the free throw line. I thought Ben was good. Ben was good in a lot of areas. Ben was not good at the free throw line, and I don't know why you think that that's okay. I mean, it's simple. I said it after game 1 of the Wizards series. He was 0 for 6 from the line. He's running away from the basketball. This is going to be a problem as you move forward in playoff series. Why? Because games are going to be closer. And what matters when games get closer? Free throws. Those are free points. No one's going to bat 1,000. No one's going to hit 100. You got to hit more than 30, dude. 30? 30 is embarrassing. Embarrassing. So these games are going to be closer. Every single one of them. They're going to be 1-possession games, 2-possession games. It's going to come down to the wire. That's what happens when you play better talent. That's what happens when you hit the second round instead of playing the 8th seed anymore. You're playing teams that are smarter and that are better products and that they can play with you. So, guess what? Free throws are going to matter way more when you play games that are in the second round. Jim says everyone in the comment section is probably a better free throw shooter than Ben Simmons. You're probably not wrong, which is crazy. Mr. 89 says, I hope Danny Green gets out of this slump. 4 points in 30 minutes while getting cooked by Young. Well, I mean, to be fair, I don't think this is much of a slump. I think it's more a bad game. Shake Milton is in a slump. Okay? I don't think one basketball game makes Danny Green in a slump. I think it means he just had a poor performance, and he's such a veteran that I anticipate him bouncing back. I had an awkward pause there because I was thinking of a Phillies player that I could say that's a slump, and I could not think of one off the top of my head. Andrew McCutchen and his start to the season, that was a slump. Odubel Herrera early on in his season, that was a slump. One bad basketball game does not automatically put Danny Green now in this slump category. He's been around the block for a long, long time. I'm not worried now that Danny Green can't play. There's already individuals that want to change the whole entire starting lineup. After getting the 1 seed, after being this damaging every single performance for the most part with your starting 5, if you look at the win percentage, it's just absurd how much they win basketball games as a unit. One basketball game, and now it's time to blow up the whole starting 5. Maybe if they lose game 2. If they lose game 2, I'm more open to trying Matisse Thybulle and trying this and trying that. I just don't know. See, it's so simple to say, well, throw Matisse out there for 38 minutes. You don't have the same impact in 38 minutes than you do 22 minutes off the bench as a role player. There's a reason why Tyrese Maxey's not playing 38 minutes. 38 minutes of Maxey is not the same as 15 to 16 minutes of Tyrese Maxey. I'm not saying you can't try things when you start losing basketball games. And yes, you do have to try different things when your team goes in the wrong direction. One basketball game, though, is too small of a sample size to start changing a starting 5 that got you the number 1 seed. Why do you feel so confident about this team? Because of everything Seth Curry, Danny Green, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Tobias Harris provided for you as a starting 5. One loss, and now it's time to change everything. I would be more willing to change something if they fell in game 2, and now they're heading back to the Atlanta series or heading back to Atlanta Hawks. Heading to Atlanta in this Hawks series down 0-2. That's a different conversation. It's the playoffs, CB. It's the playoffs. Your starters are going to play significant amount of minutes. There's not a lot of time for these bench players to log in an aggressive amount. He played 19 minutes total. He had the most amount of minutes on your bench. There's not many minutes for you to find. You play your starters a lot of minutes in the playoffs. Ben Simmons, 37. Embiid, 38. Tobias, 36. Seth Curry, 36. This is what I try telling people. 8-man rotation. 8 men. 8, 9 men. Well, guess what? If you're rotating 8 or 9, you're not playing. We were screaming that he kept the bench in too long. Put the starters back in. Let's go, Doc. Well, that's even less time for these bench players to play their minutes. Bench Danny? What? We're benching a veteran winner that wins championships year in and year out. One with Toronto, one with the Lakers. Now you're the number 1 seed and the favorite to go far. The favorite to win this series, that's for damn sure. And now we're benching because of one game, one of the crucial starters that helped you be in this position to begin with. Philly for life, I'm sorry, but your takes today have just been horrendous. George Hill sucked. George Hill absolutely sucked yesterday. -17 in 11 minutes. I mean, come on. Terrible. Terrible. Bobby says, heard you were on 97.5 in Philly. Yes, I've been there for about 3 months now. Bobby remembers back in the day when it was a different station, lived in Yardley, PA back in the day, 20 miles from Philly. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yes, I was on the Fanatic. I pretty much have been on every weekend since getting the nod there, and it's a really fun time, especially after a game like we saw yesterday. Just a lot of fun reacting with the fans, taking the phone calls, and getting the pulse on the city. And I'll be honest with you, yesterday there was a lot of optimism, and I don't think that that's a wrong way to think after yesterday's game. No loss is a good loss. There's no moral victories in the postseason, and you're down 0-1 in the series, and that's the most important thing. But I do feel that if you want to look outside of just the vacuum, because if you look at the vacuum, they lost the basketball game. But that's too narrow-minded. That's too short-sighted for me. Let's now expand. Now let's grow the conversation. Let's grow the context. When you analyze this basketball team, they're still the better team. The adjustments are there to be made. The answers and the fixes to this loss are on your roster. It's just about making the right adjustments. But it is there. It is there. Jude thinks that you can easily make an argument that the Hawks have a better bench. Lou Will, Gallinari, and Herter is a solid bench. It is a solid bench. But you know what, Jude? This is what it comes down to. And you may be right. They bring you different looks, and here's the thing. The Sixers don't have anyone that can break people down. They don't. Lou Will can. Now, I'm not telling you Herter can, and I'm not telling you Gallinari can, but they bring you different styles off the bench. While if you think about the Sixers, Dwight Howard isn't creating things for you offensively. Matisse Thybulle's not creating things for you offensively. They don't have those skill sets, even though Matisse Thybulle did drill a couple threes. Good for him. I don't think I could rely on him to be a scorer for you off the bench. They have options to score off the bench, while the Sixers straight up don't, other than George Hill, even though he was pathetic in game one. I don't expect him to play that poorly. You have your best options are just a guy that can play for Joel Embiid for a handful of minutes and just stand in the paint area and grab you boards, which matters, but it's not an offensive threat, while the Hawks actually give you options to score the basketball more. That's a very good point. It's a very, very good point that the bench on the other side is, something that is definitely interesting to look at. I'm actually I'll give you some props because I think I'll write that down, Jude. Where's my phone? I'll put that in my notes. I think that's a good point that I want to bring up and expand on a little bit more in a podcast that I'm going to do tonight. I have a whole, is anyone else to know? I use my notes in my phone and on my iPad. And I'm curious, am I the only one to do this? Because I saw a TikTok the other day and it said, what is the most useless thing on your phone that you never use? And maybe this is just the younger experience, the younger crowd. Sorry, I got sidetracked with a couple emails here. Maybe it's the younger crowd that just doesn't utilize it. But I'm a notes guy. The trade for the Fultz pick was the end of our championship. Hopes never trade with Ainge. What? What are we talking about Markelle Fultz for today? What are we talking about Markelle Fultz for today? I'm a little lost with that one. Skev says Shake Milton got 1 minute yesterday. LOL. I have no idea. No idea why Shake Milton was utilized in that moment. That was one of the dumbest things in the world. It was the most asinine thing I've ever seen in my life. Not only was he actually played, but he was actually played with like 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And I almost feel that's Doc Rivers saying, I told you so. I told you I'm going to play 11. I told you I'm going to utilize my bench. Short of like him making a statement and being stubborn, I'm doing this. And I will prove to you that this will work. I'm going to do it. Well, Doc, it was dumb. It was dumb. How much do you think DeAndre Hunter affects the series, Brodes? I think it's definitely important. It definitely helps them. DeAndre Hunter is a very important piece to their team. It doesn't hurt them. I'll tell you that for free. It only makes it a tougher matchup. It's not going to make it any easier. Them throwing DeAndre Hunter back on you does not make it something that is any easier for the Sixers. He averages 15 points per game, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and he's a hell of a player. He gives you versatility. He's a workhorse. He gives it on the other side of the floor as well. If you go to his game log, just looking at the way he's recently played, he gave you 15 points in his last game against the New York Knicks, 15-3. He had a steal and a block in game, what was that? Game 4, not his strongest performance. In game 2, he had 18 points. Did get into some foul trouble, though. 11 points in game 3. He gives you another element. He gives you another. You talk about the bench, right? You talk about the bench, the Atlanta Hawks and their bench. You add DeAndre Hunter in the mix as well. It only talks about their bench just in general because you got to maneuver pieces around. You got to maneuver the starting rotation. They go with Hill. Now that impacts where Hill plays, and, it only makes it a little bit more different. Just call me Flair. Shake had 1 minute, had a turnover, and got scored on. Yeah, tough to do. The plus minus for the bench is basically, it's not the full story, and I think it gives the starters somewhat of a hook, and I don't want to give the starters any sort of hook. They're not off the hook in my book at all. But if you look at the plus minus, it's not that simple, but it is telling. The plus minus for the Sixers bench compared to the plus minus for the Atlanta Hawks bench, it's night and day. One team has plus, 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 plus. The other team is minus, 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 minus. While you look at the starters of the Sixers, plus, 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 plus. While you look at the Atlanta Hawks' starters, everyone but one player was minus, 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 minus. It's not that simple. I'm not saying it is, because that would make it seem as if the starters did just fine for the Sixers, and I don't think so. I think that they were a problem in that 17-0 run early on, and they started certain things, and Danny Green was miserable defensively. Danny Green had zero first quarter shots. He's too good to have 0 first quarter shots. Danny, you got to let it fly more, man. Like, you can't allow for that to happen. The Sixers team needs to target Trae Young and make them work defensively. There's so many times where he was hanging out, not utilizing that energy. Force Trae Young to move. Force Trae Young to have to use some of his sweat, right? He's got to sweat. He's got to move his legs. He has to be running around, fighting through screens. The problem is, though, and this goes back to yelling about how this team just doesn't have what the NBA uses today, which is shot creation, being able to shoot off the dribble, trying to create your own look off the bounce. You don't have that. That's why we're so enamored with guys like Alec Burks, and we're so enamored with players like Tyrese Maxey, because they have something that this game looks at and realizes that you need this in this league. My point is this: you don't really have anyone that can just keep targeting Trae Young the way that you should have someone that can constantly target Trae Young. You see what Trae Young did to Danny Green over and over and over and over and over again. Do you have someone on the Sixers that can constantly target Trae Young with that same mentality? And the answer is no. The answer is no. Lazy passes. Nathan brings up lazy passes. 9 turnovers in the first 15 minutes. And why in God's name is Ben not on Trae? I'll go back to saying I don't mind trying Danny Green, who has had success with smaller guards this year. I have the problem with not changing to Ben Simmons sooner. If you have the best defensive player in the league, there's no reason why he should not be on one of the best players on the other team. It's just that simple. Now, with that being said, I don't think that automatically changes everything to the point where now the Sixers are good. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, because Ben on Trae is so dominant that you now don't have to worry about anything else, because now you have options on the floor elsewhere. Ben was utilizing his skill set on another player. Well, now you can maybe get Bogdanovich going. Maybe DeAndre Hunter's the guy. Maybe it's somebody else. Whatever the case may be, putting Ben on Trae might limit Trae, even though he will still get his, because players get theirs no matter what in this league when you are a special talent. But that opens up the door for another player to kind of get their rhythm going and to get into a smooth rhythm. So I think you have to do that. You have to try Ben Simmons on him. I just don't think it's as simple as, well, now the Sixers are just going to win the next 4 straight in a row because, well, Ben on Trae is just that suffocating. Other things open up when you do that, and the Hawks are a smart team. They're well coached, and I think that they are already game planning for, this is what we're going to do when they put Ben on Trae, because Ben on Trae is happening. This is how we're going to counter. Ben got into foul trouble the second he got put on Trae, which forced him to switch off of him fairly early. And that's something that can happen, though. Trae Young is shifty. Trae Young knows how to work the refs. Trae Young has been a smaller guard that utilizes his body and his skill set to get other players to pick up fouls. That's part of being crafty. That's part of being smooth. That's part of being Trae Young. So that's part of this conversation of putting Ben on Trae Young. And if you think that Ben Simmons is one of the best defensive players in the game, which he is, he needs to recognize that and adjust his game. He can't just do it over and over again and start bitching that the refs are being bad. Stop putting yourself in that spot, and you need to make an adjustment as a player, or you're going to put your team at a disadvantage. Don't put your team at a disadvantage. You need to adjust as a player on how you're defending instead of just calling out the refs and throwing your hands up every single time. I'm not telling you that's the way it should be, but I'm telling you the way that it's the way it is. That it is. Chris thinks that there's something about Trae that makes his blood boil. He's good. That's what it is. He's good. He's good. He has a killer mentality. He's built for big moments. He wants that moment. While we have someone who doesn't really want the moment. Ben Simmons doesn't want the moment. We're watching a killer. Now, Joel wants the moment, but I think when I watch Trae Young, it makes me think about everything. It really does. It just makes me think about what it's like to have a guard that makes sense in 2021. It makes me think about how we've been watching a guard that doesn't make sense. Is it even fair to say guard? It's positionless basketball. But a primary ball handler. When I watch players like Trae, when I watch guys like Damian Lillard, when I watch guys like Devin Booker, when I watch all these players play in the postseason, I hate to say it because I'm a big fan of Ben, but I think about it every single damn time. What are we doing here? What are we doing here with a point guard that doesn't shoot a basketball in a league where I'm watching the Atlanta Hawks jack up? Let's see how many threes did they end up shooting? They finished the day with 35 Oh, no. That's us. That's free throws. 47 three-pointers. It's crazy. It's crazy. It just makes me think. Bogdanovich shushing the crowd made me so angry. Not me. He made the shots. He made the shots. He has every right to make that gesture. Just like Trae Young had every right to bow in Madison Square Garden. That's what big shots allow you to do. You make a killer shot where the crowd goes silent. They go from crazy to going silent, and it seems like you can hear a pin drop, and everyone goes, oh, and everyone does it at the same exact time, all 18, 19, 20,000 people. Yeah, I mean, you can do whatever gesture you want. You want to flip off the double bird to the old guy that flipped off Russell Westbrook? By all means, you're entitled to that because that's what the moment is. You know, you have the power to do it. But I'm not going to lie to you. There's seriously every single time I watch an opponent go off the way that opponent goes off, I think about Ben Simmons. That doesn't mean I hate him. It doesn't mean I'm screaming to get rid of him. It doesn't mean he's the worst player I've ever seen. He does a lot of things well. I just look at the way the game is played, and I think about how the Sixers are constructed. I think about their primary ball handler, and I'm just confused. And I wonder, what are we doing? What are we doing? And I do think that there's something to this. So, Maxey and Simmons. Is there something to having a combo guard out there? Yeah, I think that there is something to it. Seth Curry, I know he can dribble and he can put the ball on the floor. I cringe when he doesn't. I don't feel insanely confident about it. It's not my favorite thing in the world. He can do it. You can't live and die with it. He's definitely not the best option in the world. but he's better than, let's say, Danny Green doing it. You have Seth, you have Danny, but you don't really have that. Now, Tyrese is not ready to be a starter on a legitimate playoff championship caliber team and playing aside Ben Simmons in a starting rotation. He would get abused and he would get put on the record of we're going to target him constantly. He's just not ready for that yet, and that's okay. But there's a problem here. How do I like the free throw flop? What are you referencing? The free throw flop. Am I missing something? Are you just talking about Ben Simmons sucking at free throws? Am I just forgetting exactly what's being referenced here? Was there a specific flop for a free throw? Or are you just talking about Trae Young flopping to get calls to go to the line? I'm a little lost on exactly where we're going here with the free throw flops. Let me know exactly what you're referencing. Would I trade Simmons? I would trade for Damian Lillard. I would trade for Damian Lillard. If you can get Damian Lillard and you can target him and you can combine him with the Joel Embiid, I'm 1,000% doing that for Damian Lillard. I've always said there's maybe 3-4 guys I'd trade Ben Simmons for. Devin Booker, and I'm not even saying these are legitimate as if the other team would want to do that, because if I'm the other team, I'm not doing that. But Devin Booker, James Harden before he went to the Brooklyn Nets. I know he's injured now, but if you're talking about just the skill level involved, he's one. And Damian Lillard. Trae Young flopped. All these guys flop, right? I mean, that's just kind of how it is. All these guys flop. Yeah, I don't understand the obsession with I understand, basically, Skev, because the challenge call Doc Rivers was not happy about, and he wants to get more information on why that wasn't overturned. My thinking with it is, I don't know how you overturn it. That's all. So maybe the original call was poor, but I don't know how you overturn it in that situation after seeing the replay. Was there clear-cut evidence that there was no contact there? There was a hook of the arm involved. There was a little bit of contact there. I didn't love the initial call, but that doesn't mean that I don't understand why they didn't overturn the call. I could see why they didn't overturn it. Maybe I don't like the original, but I could see why they didn't overturn it. Joel bumped him and he flopped big time while Simmons was shooting a free throw. I'll tag you on Twitter. Yeah, definitely. Let me see it on Twitter so then I can reference it a little better, because off the top of my head, nothing really pops to my mind. So tag me on Twitter and I will check that out right now so I can talk about what you're referencing. Nathan states that Ben cannot make his free throws. If we make our free throws, we might win the game. It will kill them. It could kill them long term. I stated that after game 1, but I was told I was a moron because they won the game. So there's no way that I could point out flaws. It's ridiculous for me to point out flaws after a win. Well, no. No. Okay, let's see. Let's see the play we're referencing. Oh, yeah. That Trae Young flop. Welcome to the NBA. You know what I mean? That's bad, but that's so. To me, that stuff is just like what it is. You know what I mean? I know people get fascinated and upset with all that and the flopping and this and that. You know, it is what it is. It's the NBA. So there's really nothing else more to it than just people flop, people try and get an advantage, people try and get calls. If I'm in the NBA and I'm in the NBA playoffs and you're telling me if I pop my head back a couple of times or if I flail my arms out, I can get to the free throw line and get my team extra points because I can actually hit my free throws, unlike Ben Simmons, then I'm going to do that. I'm going to take advantage of the very flawed way that the referees call the game. It's not my fault that the refs are blowing the whistle. I'm not going to allow the other team to do it and not give myself an advantage as well. So, yeah, and I can't believe I'm going to end the show on this point, but I think I am. This is the first time someone referenced it in the chat, unless I missed it earlier. But did I watch the Logan Paul Floyd fight? Yes, I did. For anyone who thinks, like, this is hilarious to me, Floyd Mayweather does not knock people out. If you did not know that and you thought that Floyd Mayweather was going to knock someone out, especially someone of that size, no matter if he's a boxer or not a boxer, Floyd got him good multiple times. And Logan Paul, I'll give him credit. He ate a lot of shots. To go with the narrative that Logan Paul went the distance with Floyd Mayweather, so he's some amazing boxer or something. Look, Floyd Mayweather does not knock people out. He does not knock people out. I don't think people understand Floyd Mayweather. He's one of the best defensive boxers we've ever seen, if not the best. He plays a strategic, technical game and wins because of it, and it's masterful. But Floyd Mayweather dominated that match. Dominated. It was not even close. It wasn't even close. If there were actual scorecards, it wasn't even close. But because he didn't knock him out, there's morons out there who don't understand boxing who just think it's a knockout fest. That's not what it is. It's not what it is. You have a 40-something-year-old man who you could even tell after the game. It was fun. I had so much fun. It was fun moving around. We put on some entertainment. It was fun. Floyd Mayweather's 40-something years old. The fight wasn't close. So for anyone who thinks that, oh, I lose respect for Floyd Mayweather, he can't knock out a YouTuber. Floyd Mayweather does not knock out anyone. Do you guys know boxing? Floyd Mayweather does not knock people out. So how do you expect him to knock out a guy who's that size? He's a strategic, technical mastermind in the boxing ring who dominated that fight the way that he dominates every fight. He's a boring fighter. He's a very boring fighter who wins because of a strategic dominance. I can't believe we're talking about this, but here we are. No one watched boxing until that. That's not true at all. Boxing is a dying sport, but there are draws, and that's just not true. It's not where it should be, and it needs to be better, and the UFC is picking up all the love. There's no denying it. And the UFC is a better product for sure, but that's not true. Floyd Mayweather had his fights for a reason. His record is what it is, and people watched Floyd Mayweather. The younger generation, no, because they're just uneducated about it. But to act as if Floyd Mayweather's prime nobody watched, nah, that's not true. I saw a clip where Floyd hit Logan with a right hook and Logan was falling over, but Floyd held him up. Yeah, Floyd was having some fun with it, man. Come on. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. All right, so with that being said, we're ending on Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul, which is just absolutely insane. I want to thank everybody for hanging out today. Coffee with Brodes, always fun. I got to make a new cup of coffee because for some reason I taste a bunch of coffee grounds in my coffee, and I never had that happen before. But I did have a weird situation occur where I hit the start button and it did not start, and I had to rebrew it. So maybe there was something with that. I don't know. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Catch you guys later. Thank you so much.